In a world where machines are becoming smarter and more advanced than ever before, we are here to explore the cutting edge of artificial intelligence. Meet our host, Eric Anthony Jones, aka Ruler in Peace, as he dives into the world of AI, its benefits and its potential dangers. He, along with his future hosts and co-hosts, will be speaking to the people who are at the forefront of AI development and its early implementation stages. We'll show you how AI can revolutionize industries and transform our daily lives, and will confront the fears surrounding AI in order to take you beyond the fear of a world existing only of cold logic. By the time this journey is over, we will discover the power of AI and delve into the creative uses of AI, sparked out of the creative ingenuity unleashed within the depths of the human mind. Join us on this action-packed journey into the world of artificial intelligence, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button.
All right. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. It's like we are back for another episode of Machine Minds. So welcome to Machine Minds, the show where we explore the latest in artificial intelligence and its impact on the world. And so we have an exciting episode today. I'm your host, Ruler in Peace, and today I'm joined by Andrew Hill, Emgen Labs co-founder. He's a technology enthusiast. So Andrew, I'm really glad that you're here. Welcome. And so,
thanks for inviting me.
You're very, very welcome. I'm really glad to have you here. And so, to start off, can you please introduce yourself and just tell us a bit about your background in AI?
Absolutely. So I've always been very enthusiastic about technology ever since I was young. Ever since I had inherited a Commodore 64, which is going a long way back. And growing up, I'd always had a strong connection with computers and had begun programming at a young age and had considered the ideas of advanced algorithms and how far they could go. And this was in the 90s. And so I've always been on that thought stream, especially with the amount of movies that have come out regarding this over the years. So that's probably my main relationship with my concepts about AI. Another factor may have been working as a healthcare analyst not too long ago.
All right. So what do you see as the future of AI in your industry?
I think AI is going to affect every industry. My industry is currently emerging technologies, which includes AI, but would heavily lean on blockchain and Web3 factors. So AI is going to be huge. It's going to be an absolutely massive explosion for the industry. It's going to revolutionize everything, which really brings us, I suppose, to the concerns that could come from that. But I can see a lot of positivity that could come out of this.
Do you have any specifics that you can share with us, and anything specifically that you think will be positive? Just remember, you're not the end all of everything in AI. I just want to get from you what it is where you are in your space. We'll talk about the negatives later, but just from the positives, is like, what do you see positively in the future of AI?
I think specifically its greatest power is decision making rapidly. So as an analyst, I would have to read a lot of data, many reports, and then I'd have to take a long time to consider all the data to make a decision of how to move forward. AI can do that in 1 second. it can access all of the data instantly and then make the decision in a second, where the equivalent for me could be a week of research and deliberating on what decision I should take. So I know it's a very general and broad concept, but decision making is something that's used by everyone every day, especially large corporations and governments, where there is a lot of data to try and make that correct decision. And there's also time frame issues around that. We know that governments are generally very slow about how they do things, incredibly slow. And to have an AI that's correctly configured that could do these jobs in an instant would really revolutionize large corporations and businesses. So I probably wouldn't want to get more specific than that. The complex decision making that can take long periods of time can really be revolutionized by AI.
Yeah, I hear you. I really understand what you're saying there for sure. It seems to be a general theme with all of my guests thus far, and that is that AI can do things faster, and that can recoup our time to be able to focus on other things. I mean, the whole idea or the hope, of course, and that's the whole thing about technology. If we're honest, if we get back, we always say that things are going to make our lives easier, faster, smoother. It's like so that we can have more time to do the things that we really want to do, have more time to spend with family, more time to blah 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 blah. And so that's been the whole thing about technology overall. But
probably not. I probably wasn't thinking from that angle specifically. Like that would be true. Not about saving time, but about taking action in a timely manner is more important, because we know that governments at times need to make split-second decisions, and they are not in the position to do that. They can't get through all the data and through all the processes fast enough to make that split-second decision, but AI can do that. So I'm not really thinking about, we'll save people time. It's more about these corporations and governments being able to act in a timely manner. They'll be more efficient. And that's really important with emergencies that arise.
For sure. When you say emergencies, I'm curious what type of emergencies come to mind. I have an idea, but what kind of emergencies are you thinking about?
All of them. So I've seen a lot and lived through a lot. So whether it's dam overflows, we've seen that in Australia where it was a critical issue. Bushfires, COVID, tsunamis, pretty much any emergency you can think of, something that arises, like for example, a bushfire, that will, one day there's no fire, the next day there is a fire. The decision needs to be made very quickly, and an incorrect decision could be devastating.
It would be really nice if AI could get to the point of where it could help predict tsunamis and get warnings out there faster to protect the people, if you know what I mean. And so I was actually in Indonesia in 2004 when the earthquake happened off of Aceh, and then the oncoming tsunami. I actually was at the time of the actual earthquake. I was in Jakarta, but a lot of the family of my ex-wife is like passed away that day, just like boom, instantly, because no one knew what was coming and nothing was there to warn the government. It's like, and if AI models were already running and part of the whole network of things, maybe a lot of lives could have been saved, because that particular tsunami devastated several countries. So I hear what you're saying, and I find that very interesting and an interesting perspective. So
I think your point that
what are your
made there is quite fascinating, actually, because I was sort of referring to reactive systems, but you've just referred to a proactive system that could preempt, and that is a very exciting possibility of a system not just being very fast in reaction, but actually taking steps before an event occurs because it's pre-calculated. So that's a very powerful thing.
Exactly. And even though I'm not really into Big Brother monitoring everything, if you had monitors and stuff in the sea, it's like monitoring, just tension and pressures and shifts and quakes and stuff like that. It's like we spend so much time. My thing about government is we spend so much time focusing on monitoring human beings. But what if we were monitoring anomalies and situations that helped keep us alive and keep us safe? That would be a very positive use of AI technology that could save lives. So,
Yeah, that's I agree.
but once again, we're talking about government. Are you there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay, go ahead. It's like I lost you for a second, but go ahead and say what you were saying.
Yeah, so government regulation and control is a very interesting subject. It's a touchy topic these days. But as you said, if it was less related to people and more related to the environment, I think that more people could get behind and support them on that sort of initiative.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, it's a good part to go ahead and segue into what are your thoughts on the safety and ethical concerns surrounding AI? And so you and I were talking a little bit offline about both of our mutual apprehensions is like government and the abuse of power from government, et cetera, et cetera. So, what are your thoughts on the safety and ethical concerns surrounding AI, and how do you think, what kinds of actions do you think we need to take, is like to have us more protected?
The programs need to be severely limited, in my opinion. Their access to data needs to be limited. The kinds of things that they can do needs to be limited. So I'm thinking, a massive amount of limitations put around the AI. A good example is now we have killer drones that are made for war, and they are choosing their targets automatically and they're firing upon the targets automatically. Okay, so this sort of thing is very dangerous. If there's enough limitations and checks and balances in the system, it may be okay. But if you imagine that same AI may be hooked into the general internet and it has access to any sort of data, the things that could go wrong there, and especially it's deciding what the targets are, and these are actual human beings that these killer drones target. Maybe it could go through the internet and pull heaps of data and start having some new ideas about who the target should be. So that's a very scary concept, and we've seen that in the Terminator. But we're actually operating these machines right now, and they're active. So that's very scary. My greatest ethical concern always comes down to self-driving cars, because I don't know if you're familiar with the trolley problem. It's the idea that a train is on the track, it's out of control, we can't stop it. We can change track, but on one track it's going to kill 3 people, and on the other track it's going to kill 1. What do you do? Now, this is the problem that a self-driving AI car will face, and we need to somehow tell it which group of people will suffer, by that choice. It's called the trolley problem. It's very challenging, and if you think about this in application with an AI, you could say that if 3 people jumped in front of the car would swerve and save the 3 people, and it would kill the driver. This poses a concern where people could jump in front of the car on purpose. So
Yeah.
this sort of concept is extremely worrying to me, especially since people are pushing forward very quickly into self-driving cars in particular.
Uh-huh. So yeah, I mean, it's always an interesting. I spend a lot of time thinking about data sets and how they're programmed, how they're created. Is like, what is the force behind the data? Is it just raw data? And then, I think about the human condition. The human condition is one of where we all have our beliefs, our perspective, and our point of view. And based off of our beliefs, perspective, and point of view, we are right based off of that information that we contain. But we know that with over 7 billion people on the planet, that there are over 7 billion beliefs, perspective, and point of view. Even if you go to the, let's say, let's just pick something randomly. You belong to the same football team. You've had the same coach. You've had the same training. You have the same conditioning. You hear the same speeches and rah-rahs, but we still interpret that stuff even differently within our own sect, let alone extrapolating that out to people from a different team, from a different location, or a different religion, or a different this, or a different that. And so now you take the whole data set and AI taking in information to quote unquote learn and grow, but where is the information really coming from? And
that's right. What's the quality of the information as well?
Exactly.
You brought up a really great point there, which is it comes back to the trolley problem, which is that if I'm the one driving the train and then I decide to choose the path with the 3 people on it, afterwards people will say to me, why? And I can tell them why. I can explain what I saw, what I thought. But if it's an AI in control, we ask it why, it says, well, that's my program. That's what I do. There's no moral or ethical explanation about why it made which choice. It's just the program set that way. But like you said, with our training, whether it's our morals, ethics, religion, whatever, all these things factor into why we made the choice, and we can defend ourselves for that choice. So that's a really interesting thing, and that's something that an AI will lack.
Absolutely. And so at this particular point, and so, I mean, there's always this, do we get to a world of the Matrix? Do we get to the world of the Terminator, where it's like supposedly these entities become self-actualized and begin making choices and decisions based off of what they perceive as in the best interest of all? And do they ever get to a point where they start to think about what's in their personal best interest? It's like, it's really hard to, to break it all down. And that's where fear gets involved. And I try to stay away from fear. I don't want to be afraid of anything. I don't want to live in a world where, because fear for me at this particular point in my life stands for false expectations appearing real. And so false expectations appearing real create a lot of fear in all of us. And so, yeah, it's really hard for me to put my head around all of this. And part of it is because, like I said, I do believe that we as human beings put ourselves in situations where, even growing up as a kid, I've known many people who didn't live to my age because they were stupid, they were dumb, they thought that something was harmless, and it ended up being detrimental to their very human existence. And in high school, they were gone. It's like, and it's crazy things. I knew a friend who, back in the old days when they had copy machines and they had the dye that you actually poured into the machines and stuff like that, someone dared her to drink some. And she did. And she died. It's like, that stuff is so toxic. And so we find ourselves doing things for crazy reasons, and we don't understand just how detrimental they really are. And yet I would like to, and I'm ruler in peace, so of course I'm going to look for the positive in all of these things and believe that, intentions are pure, even though I'm not. It's really hard for me even to believe that intentions are pure on one hand, because whoever created AI initially, I mean, I don't know the very founders of AI, and we've been living with AI in various forms for a long time, but I would like, I believe, maybe I'm being negative, but I believe that there's a commercial component to all of this stuff. It's like not just an altruistic, make the world a better place, but also how can I capitalize off this in the long run, um, for
I
my
agree
own.
with that completely. And with my AI tests, I have seen certain corporate leans inside of it, and ideological concepts that are built into it, which is a concern. It's not a neutral system, which it should be. It's actually got its own ideas about how things should be and how they are and were, and people have programmed that. And it's important to note this, and people forget that we're going to build this master thing that's smarter than us and it's going to do all this stuff, but when we look at the factors of life, the poor girl that drank the photocopy ink, we're the people making this AI. There's
Yeah.
people like that are doing it, people like you and me, and we're not perfect and we make mistakes, and sometimes we get bad advice and we follow it, and these are the same people that are building the AI. So I to stay on the positivity side though, I think with the right limits and restrictions, it can be extremely valuable to everybody, but I think they need to be very strong restrictions on the AIs.
I understand. I definitely believe that there needs to be regulation, but my question becomes then, once again, those who are regulating, once again, motives, intentions. I see so much dysfunction going on, and I'm curious about your thoughts on that. I see so much dysfunction going on in government around the world. Um, and I just wonder, I wonder, I'm concerned, I'm honestly concerned about accountability and those in power actually having the willpower and the genuine desire to make things right and to do things the right way versus just doing what they want to do. We see a rise in our governments around the world into authoritarianism. Um, Here in the United States, that's true. I mean, in Italy, I know it was true. I don't, and of course, we still have genocides going on around the world, and so you know, it's very, very powerful technology that requires us being very active and involved in trying to create motivation and direction towards how all these things even come out, even the data sets and what's allowed and what's not, and who's ultimately responsible. Um, and I really don't. Do you have any ideas? I'm curious. Do you have any ideas on on how everyday ordinary people get involved to not only know what's going on but also to try to shape is like what's going on to make sure that we are protected as a humanity.
This is this is the question, and we've seen, like you've said, authoritarian governments everywhere, and it's out of control. But I think the start comes from the American Constitution and the idea of how that's structured. The main idea was that America didn't want to answer to one person who could tell them whatever to do. King George. They didn't want a king anymore. So they've removed the power from the person at the top and separated it throughout. That's the way it's supposed to work. It's not working that way anymore, but that's the way it's supposed to be. And that stops us from having a king at the top, that the power is separated throughout all the different states and things like that. The Australian system is similar in some ways. So what I would urge people to do is to stop expecting their country's leader to fix everything. I'd urge people to speak with their local member at every opportunity to share any concerns that they have. And maybe we can get these governments operating the way that they're supposed to, because whether our governments are structured correctly or not, they're actually not following their own rules at this stage. So I think the first step is to get them to follow their own rules, and then we work out whether the rules are good or not afterwards. But people really need to be in contact with their local members and stop expecting their country's leader to act like a king or a god and just click their fingers all the time and fix things.
Yeah, I agree with you there sincerely. And more so, not just get involved with their local leaders, but would you agree that they need to be more responsible of who they vote in as their local leaders as well? Because I
100%.
can't speak for in your country, but I notice in my country that they are electing a lot of people that don't hold values. They don't have to hold values that are equal to mine, but they have to hold values that are equal to what we say a country stands for. And when citizens do not even elect people who stand for the very values a country is supposed to stand for, what does that say for society as a whole? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a good point. I suppose, look, if governments are functioning correctly, we don't know that they're there. They're fairly small and they're efficient and they're not telling us what to do. That's an effective government. But because the governments aren't functioning correctly, the people need to go and talk to this person before they vote them in. You know, the people go around and they do meet and greets. Go and meet them. And if you have a chat with them and you don't think that what they're saying is quite gelling with your own ethics, don't vote for them. Vote for somebody else. So, yeah, I don't like to encourage people to get political and get into it, but I think we have to at this time, just because the governments are doing some pretty wild stuff at the moment, I think, worldwide.
Yeah, I think that's pretty apparent. And so, Andrew,
there's an interesting ethos with that, which is a tyrannical government will tell you, don't trust the people, trust the government. And a good government will tell you, don't trust us, trust the people. And that's the difference.
Exactly. And it's a very significant and telling difference. I appreciate you sharing that. So, Andrew, thank you for sharing your insights with us today. Before we wrap up, could you share with us a specific project or accomplishment related to AI that you're most proud of? It doesn't have to be something that you created yourself if you have done something great. But if not, is there any specific project or accomplishment related to AI that you're most proud of?
Someone that I work with that you also know, BK Han, is doing some work with AI and different versions of apps with it. And I think what he's doing is quite impressive and actually may have some really great use in the future. I don't want to say too much about it because someone will probably steal his idea and do it. But yeah, I'm seeing some good sort of modifications of the ChatGPT system where it could be customized to focus to a particular industry rather than just being a general AI as it currently is. So I think BK Han's working to be a leader in the AI space, and he is making some headway in that respect.
Yeah, I hear you.
I should note too, also a co-founder of MGen Labs as well. So it's somebody that I work closely with.
Gotcha. I understand. And so, yeah, and probably not best to extrapolate too much at this particular time until it's well underway, but I appreciate you sharing that. So lastly, is there anything else you'd like to add about AI or your work in this field before we go ahead and close out for the evening?
Absolutely. I think it's the same as anything with great power, whether you're talking about a gun or a nuclear weapon. It has, great power to do good things and great power to do bad things. It's how we use it and the limitations that we set up that will decide ultimately how positive or negative that technology will be to our society. So hopefully everyone will get involved in trying to guide AI in the future so that it can match our own ethics and morals a bit more closely, and we'll get the outcomes that we want.
Well, I hope so too, my friend. I really do. And so, you know, um, basically, that's all the time we have for today. But I want to thank you, Andrew, for joining us on Machine Minds. And thank you to our audience, obviously, for tuning in. And I hope that everyone will join us next time in 2 weeks as we continue to explore the fascinating world of AI. I really appreciate you making the time to be here. I value your insight. And I just want to say thank you for being a guest here on Machine Minds, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Ruler and Peace. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So this is Ruler and Peace. And until I see you in 2 weeks, it's like, thank you once again for signing in for another episode. I'm sorry it's a little late. I'm a little tired. It's even later. It's like Andrew really made some effort to make it here for us. And I really appreciate it. So everyone out there, please take care, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.